Welcome back to another episode of Dugout Talk. Today is February 23rd. That would be Tuesday, 2021. Today we have the Los Angeles Angels edition. Um, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, California Angels. I'm sure at one point someone probably called them the California Angels of Anaheim. Um, they've gone by a lot of names. I wanted to make sure that they are because they seem to just change whether or not they include the of Anaheim, kind of at will. So I had to make sure before I wrote that down for the episode that they were actually just the Los Angeles Angels now.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, they do play in Anaheim, like Cam said, but Anaheim is
Yes.
not LA. It's Orange
Yeah.
County. So it's
Yep.
kind of a I don't know what the word is for it. I can't think of what
Like how the Jets and the Giants play in New Jersey instead of
exactly. Yeah, they play in East Rutherford, even though they have New
East
York as the
Rutherford.
name.
Yep.
Los Angeles brings
Yep.
in more change.
Oh yeah. All right. So episode 27. Let's get it kicked off here. So we'll start with a little baseball history for you guys. Today in February 23rd, 2012, this is 9 years ago already, avoiding a 50-game suspension, Ryan Braun becomes the very first Major League Baseball player to challenge the results of a positive test successfully. The panel that heard his appeal voted 2-1 in favor of the Brewers' 28-year-old superstar, simply because the test collector kept Braun's urine sample at his home and he stored it in a refrigerator for 2 days before sending it to before sending the sample to a Montreal laboratory for its analysis. And as you can see pictured there on the right is Braun in his interview, which took place um, 9 years ago now already, where he very fervently declared that he did nothing wrong. Kind of let a lot of Brewers fans down with that one.
Yeah, I guess he had a good reason to challenge it, but
Yeah.
considering he would just get suspended a year later,
Yep.
didn't look too good at the time. Still doesn't look that great now.
Yep. No,
So
it
my day in
doesn't.
history. Speaking of the Angels, I felt this was an
Mm-hmm.
appropriate one today. But in 1974, 47 years ago today, the California Angels at the time traded Vada Pinson to the Kansas City Royals for minor leaguer Barry Rosiano and cash. Pinson retired after the 1975 season with 2,757 career hits, the most hits of any eligible player never inducted into the Hall of Fame. Pinson spent 11 of his 18 MLB seasons with the Cincinnati Reds. And as you can see below here are some of his
Mm-hmm.
career numbers. He played in 2,469 games, 286 batting average, 327 on base percentage, and a 442 slugging percentage. 2,757 hits, scored 1,365 runs, 485 doubles, 127 triples, 256 home runs, and 1,169 RBI. It
Mm-hmm.
is quite astonishing that he is still not in the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
today. I would think a veterans committee at some point would put him in. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know the name Vada Pinson before
Yeah, I
yesterday.
didn't either.
He was kind of, I think he's someone who's very much flown under the radar over his career. But yeah, seeing this is definitely kind of an interesting little one for sure.
Yeah, he led the league in triples like 3 or 4 different times early in his Cincinnati Reds days. So I thought
Did he
that
really?
was definitely, yeah, like multiple different times.
Mm. So he had speed and he had power. That's you don't get
Yep.
that very often.
No. All right. So we'll start off our Los Angeles Angels edition with a little 2020 year in review. They went 26 and 34, finishing fourth place in the American League West. As you can see up in the upper right hand corner, they introduced the legendary manager Joe Madden as their new skipper. And they signed Anthony Rendon to a 7-year, $245 million contract. And what's crazy to see is you look at their record and then you look at the fact that they finished top five in multiple categories offensively. Fourth in runs, fifth in hits, fifth in home runs, third in walks, third in fewest strikeouts, fifth in batting average, second in on base, fifth in slugging, fifth in OPS, and fifth in total bases. It really must be a testament to how underwhelming their rotation and their bullpen was, that their offense was literally a top 5 team in the American League in a 60-game season with expanded playoffs where all you had to do was finish second place and you made the postseason, and they were unable to do that with an offense that was better than, I would say, probably at least 3 of the other postseason teams that actually made it.
Right.
What was your thought process looking over their 2020 season?
Well, their pitching struggles have not been a secret. There's a reason they've only made the playoffs once since 2010, and last year was no different. They've had so many injuries in the rotation and in the bullpen. I didn't look at an exact number, but they probably are in the top 5 as far as pitchers used in their starting rotation at least. But it just goes to show that on paper this team should have been a playoff team, and they weren't. And it's kind of the same case this year. On paper, they should be a playoff team. And considering that the AL West is not as competitive, at least there's only one team now really to beat in that division, and that's the Oakland A's. The Angels, on paper, should be a playoff team. But, you look at these offensive numbers, and they clearly have the offense to get them there. But the pitching staff has been what's really done them in the last few seasons. They're kind of like the Phillies, where the Phillies have had a good enough team to be in the postseason, but they've had struggles with their pitching and mainly their bullpen. In the Angels' case, they can't keep their pitchers healthy, and their bullpen is very much up and down. They can be good, but they also can be a bomb, nuclear bomb waiting to go off. So, I think just kind of looking at last year, again, it just goes to show that, even though they had half of the pieces there to get it done, they didn't have the other half to get it done. That's why they ended up ultimately finishing 4th.
Yeah. Overall, just kind of an upsetting season. Any team that has Mike Trout on it, I'm rooting for. And now that they have, Anthony Rendon there as well, double rooted for them. Looking at some of their offseason changes, some of their key additions and subtractions, they definitely address the pitching a lot more this year than they have in recent seasons, acquiring Alex Cobb, Raisel Iglesias, Aaron Slegers via trades. I'm really excited to see Raisel Iglesias pitch. I think he's going to be a great closer for them. They also went out and got, starting pitchers, Jose Quintana. They went out and got a good bullpen pieces in Alex Claudio, Jake Faria, and they took a Rule 5 pick from the division rival Astros, Jose Alberto Rivera. Pitching, you look at most of their subtractions. There was only one guy that was really a key player for them last season that they lost, and that was Andrelton Simmons. That wasn't a pitcher. But you look at kind of how the pieces they got and the pieces they lost kind of coexist with each other. You lose Hansel Robles, so you get Raisel Iglesias, Justin Anderson, Noe Ramirez, Jacob Barnes. You replace them with Slegers, Claudio, and Faria. Tehran you can replace with Cobb. You can replace Matt Andriese with Jose Quintana. Middleton and Bedrosian, I'm sure that, between Raisel Iglesias and Alex Claudio, they can put together the kind of talent that they'll miss in Middleton and Bedrosian. But they also replaced Andrelton Simmons with kind of a poor man's Andrelton Simmons and Jose Iglesias. Iglesias is a superstar with the glove, and then whatever you can get from the offense, you'll take. I know he had a decent run with the Orioles last season, and I believe the year before as well. They also acquired a couple outfielders, Juan Lagares, John Jay. I actually messed that up. They did not acquire Dexter Fowler via free agency. That was via trade with St. Louis. But you look at some of the additions they've made. It's really not bad.
No, not at all. Like you said, they addressed the area that was in need the most, which was their pitching. I think kind of like what we saw with Dylan Bundy. Dylan Bundy getting out of Baltimore last year. He was one of the top pitchers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
The same could be said for Alex Cobb. They got him from the Orioles, and maybe going out to Anaheim instead of being in hitter's paradise at Camden Yards will help him out. They added Cobb, they added Quintana to that rotation. They had a very young rotation up to this point, and now they've got some veterans in there. Not necessarily anybody that really jumps out at you and says that this is going to make them a top 5 rotation. I think they're capable of being a top 5 rotation. But these are guys that are good and they are good enough and maybe a little better. To me, Quintana is probably the top addition they made this off season, but he's not going to be their ace or anything like that. And then they also address their bullpen needs as well. I think Raisel Iglesias is going to be a good closer for them. Aaron Slegers, I think, is going to be a good addition to the back end of that bullpen. Alex Claudio is going to be a good addition to the back end of that bullpen. So they really addressed the needs that needed to be met. They took care of business in that way. And then I think even just going out and getting a veteran catcher like Kurt Suzuki, who has experience with winning. He has been a winner more times than not. Mm-hmm. He was on those Oakland A's teams in the early 2010s. He was on the Nationals 2019 World Series team, so he's got good veteran experience, and he can swing the bat a little bit too. So he's not a bad option back there for Joe Maddon behind the plate. And Jose Iglesias is a good addition at shortstop as well. He'll hit for a decent average. He'll provide a little pop for you. He is very similar to Andrelton Simmons in a lot of ways. Just not so much in the physique. He's a little leaner, I guess, than Simmons is. But this is a good addition for them as well at shortstop. He has a pretty solid glove as well, so they didn't really lose out here. They just kind of they let Simmons walk, and they brought in someone else who could fill the hole just as easily. And Dexter Fowler, he's an interesting addition piece for them. This feels kind of more like they're letting Joe Adell develop a little more, which isn't bad. And I think Fowler's in the final year of his contract anyway, so they can easily move him if needed. Because I don't imagine that Joe Adell is going to be ready for opening day. He might be, depending on how his spring goes, but Fowler is a good filler piece to have for them right now until he is ready. So I like what the Angels have done this offseason. I think there is a little more optimism around this team this year now, especially because of the guy they have at the helm, Joe Maddon, who's a 3-time Manager of the Year winner, and he led the Cubs to their first World Series title in 108 years. He also turned the Tampa Bay Rays around, and I mean, legitimately, he actually turned that franchise around from the time he was there. He brought them from being a laughingstock to they've been one of the best teams in baseball in the last 10 years. So I think that the Angels have a lot to look forward to this year. I like what they've been doing. And I'm rooting for them too. Hence, I got my Angels hat on today. I'm definitely rooting for them to have a good year finally, especially because you got a guy like Mike Trout on your team. They should consistently be in the playoffs every year. It's sad that they've only made it once his whole career.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see how Dexter Fowler performs. As you mentioned, he's more or less just a stopgap, whether it be Brandon Marsh or whether it be Joe Adell. Someone's going to probably replace him next season at the earliest, unless they find themselves out of it again. And, some competitors looking for a nice bench piece, nice switch hitting bench piece. Then he could potentially get moved this season. But yeah, I like Dexter Fowler as a nice stopgap. And I'm looking forward to see. I've always been a big fan of Raisel Iglesias, so no matter where he plays, I'm always looking forward to see him play. But now that he gets to pitch, for a team that has Mike Trout on it, I'm, like I said, triple rooting for the Angels at this point.
The interesting thing too is they got Iglesias from the Reds, but then Cam Bedrosian actually went out to Cincinnati in return. So it kind of feels
Mhm.
like they didn't really lose anything there. They, at least in the Angels' case, pieces they lost, they just filled them right back in. So it doesn't feel like they really lost a whole lot.
Yep,
So that
exactly.
is kind of something interesting to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking a look at Jose Iglesias and how he stacks up in this lineup, looking at kind of how mine potentially figures to play out. Um, I was talking to our friend, fan of the show, Jimmy Harvey, earlier this morning, and he sent me a picture of David Fletcher's face on the Statue of Liberty. He says
Yeah, he
that
said that
he
to me
says that
too.
David Fletcher, yeah, he says that David Fletcher is almost as big as Mike Trout out there in Los Angeles. So obviously, he's going to be a great hitter for them if they're at the top of the lineup. I think he's probably a lock to hit over 300 again this season. Uh, Obviously, right behind him, the man, the myth, and the legend, Mike Trout. Hitting third right behind him is Anthony Rendon. You want to talk about a 1-2 punch with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon? My goodness. Um, Justin Upton, Shohei Ohtani, who figures to get some DH roles. I have Jared Walsh as my first baseman. I know I was really close to putting Albert Pujols in, but I just feel like maybe because it's the last year of Pujols' contract, excuse me, and he figures to retire at the end of this season. Maybe they give Pujols, I don't think Pujols will be I don't think he's going to be a pure bench piece, but I don't think he'll play every day at first base.
Right.
Whether it be first base or DH, I think he'll figure to probably get close to 130 games in. But as far as the opening day first baseman, I do think Jared Walsh is going to win that. I have Jose Iglesias, the shortstop, hitting seventh. Dexter Fowler, the switch hitting right fielder, hitting. Oh, geez, yeah. Hitting the switch hitting outfielder, playing right field, hitting eighth, and then Max Stassi, the catcher, hitting ninth.
Yeah. I actually really like the Angels lineup this year. I think I like
Mm-hmm.
it more so than last year in a lot of ways. It seems very well balanced. They got a good amount of guys who can hit for power, who can hit for average, who can get on base. Even their bottom order guys can get on base pretty well. So this is a pretty freakishly scary lineup all around. If everyone's healthy, that is. I also have David Fletcher leading off, and I'll tell you, Jimmy is really high on David Fletcher. And I know there have been some rumors
Mm-hmm.
swirling that the Angels are trying to get a contract worked out with him. He's become a big fan favorite out there in Anaheim, Los Angeles. This is a guy that you got to be on the lookout for. He's got a lot of similar lookings of DJ LeMahieu in his early days, except Fletcher doesn't really have the same kind of power. DJ can hit for power.
Mm-hmm.
Fletcher's a little more of a contact guy, but he probably could add power into the mix as time goes on. And Fletcher can play anywhere in the infield too, so that's a real bonus to have there. Mike Trout, got him hitting second. I think it was funny. I saw a post yesterday about he finished fifth in the MVP voting last year, and it was the lowest he'd finished since 2011, his rookie
Mm-hmm.
year. And
Yep.
I don't know if he was serious or not, but Trout claims to have had a bad year, even though he hit
Yeah.
281. Most guys would kill to have a start to a season like he had last year if that was a bad year for him. Anthony Rendon, I've got
Yeah.
him hitting third. Shohei Ohtani, the DH, I got him hitting cleanup. I put Albert Pujols in my lineup, and it's really because right now, there are conflicting reports as to whether or not he's going to retire or
Yeah.
not. His wife came out on Instagram and said he was going to, but it doesn't sound like he's confirmed that yet. Although I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine that there is a probably more than reasonable chance he is going to retire after this year. And to me, the only thing he's really going for at this point is the 700th homer. He's 38 away from
Yep.
getting
Yep.
that. But I have Pujols in there because I think even if this isn't his final year, it's kind of more of a respect thing for a veteran guy like
Yep.
Pujols. And I agree with you. I don't think he's going to be an everyday guy for them this year. I think he will be more of like maybe 2 to 3 starts a week because they do have Jared Walsh up and coming. And so I feel that Pujols probably is going to be more of a bench piece who will get some spot starts here and there. But it's opening day. You got nothing to lose. I think it's the respectful thing to do is to go with him on opening day. And who knows, maybe they could put him at DH too. Maybe they decide not to put Ohtani in, but I think that Pujols will be in the opening day lineup either way. Justin Upton, I've got him hitting sixth. I'm really rooting for Upton to have a bounce back here. He's had 2 really awful years. He was injured a lot in most of 2019, and then last year just he couldn't figure it out for a good chunk of the year. I'm hoping that he bounces back. Dexter Fowler, the right fielder, I got him hitting 7th. Jose Iglesias, I got him hitting 8th. And I did put Max Stassi in there, although Stassi is dealing with a hip injury right now. He may not be ready for opening day, although Fangraphs still projects he's going to be the primary guy. So maybe there is a little light there that he might actually be ready by opening day. I went ahead and put him in for now, but it's kind of a toss-up. Even Kurt Suzuki, I could see being the opening day catcher for them, depending on who they use as the opening day starter.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a relatively good lineup. I think if they can get something back from Justin Upton, this could be a dangerous year for them.
Exactly.
Looking at how the rotations figured to stand out, I had to throw Shohei Ohtani in there. He's only going to pitch on Sundays, assuming that he does pitch at some point in time this year. There's been conflicting reports of how he's looked in his bullpens this spring, so they may try to hold off on him pitching most, if not all, of the year. I do think they're going to try to get something out of him pitching wise. My rotation starts with Dylan Bundy at the top. He really broke out last season. And I think that, moving forward, I've kind of put some Jake Arrieta comps in there for him. Maybe not his makeup or his physique, but, he left Baltimore and now he's successful. Reminds me a lot of Jake Arrieta. So I have him as the one. The veteran lefty, Jose Quintana, he may not be the best starting pitcher that you can get, but he's going to throw 200 innings. He's going to have an ERA right around, 4.3 to 4.5. And, probably a win-loss record of something like 12-10, 12-9, something like that. He's a solid depth piece. He's going to get you innings, and I think that's really important for the Angels at this point. I have the lefty Andrew Heaney right behind him. Then I have Alex Cobb, their new right-handed pitcher. I have him as the number 4, and then Griffin Canning as the number 5.
I only didn't put Ohtani in because I know the Sunday thing. It seems like that's more. I feel like that's more of a spot start thing for me. So it's not like traditional.
Yeah. I just tossed him in there.
Right. Well, the thing about Ohtani too is he did admit in his bullpen session he didn't turn it up all the way, so he wasn't pitching at like full
exactly.
max. Which that seems like that's been a really common thing with him since he came over to the U.S. to play Major League Baseball. He doesn't put max effort into his bullpens at the start, and I know people have been concerned about that, but actually it's a smart thing to do, especially that early in the year. You don't want to mess anything up like that. Dylan Bundy, I do like him as the opening day guy, although I do think the Angels could go anyway with their rotation, but Bundy had a resurgence here last year. And it really had to do with the fact that he was not giving up the home run ball like he was in Baltimore. Granted, when he was in Baltimore, he really wasn't that bad of a pitcher either, but he just got absolutely owned by the long ball over there. And now he went out to Anaheim last year, and you're right, he kind of does have Jake Arrieta comps. I don't know if he's going to be a Jake Arrieta exactly. It'd be cool to see him kind of perform like Arrieta when he went over to the Cubs, but I think he's a good opening day guy for them to have. Andrew Heaney, I've got him as the number 2. Jose Quintana, I've got him as the number 3. And Quintana, I could easily see maybe being the ace for the club as well. I think Quintana is going to actually be the best pitcher in the rotation this season. I have a feeling that him going out to Anaheim and having a little change of scenery and pitching in a different environment, there's a feeling in my gut that this guy is going to win like 15 games, maybe a little more, record an ERA at 3.3 or below, which I think if the Angels can get that out of him, that would be huge. So I've got him as the number 3. Alex Cobb, I got him as the number 4, and I'm hoping that he can have a nice little resurgence out in Anaheim as well. And then Griffin Canning, the youngster, I've got him as the number 5. There's another guy that you can probably keep a look at on Pablo Sandoval. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Is that his name, Pablo Sandoval? I may have written that down wrong. But he's a younger pitcher in their system as well who got a lot of time. It may be Paul Sandoval.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Paul Sandoval. God, I wrote it down in my notes wrong.
Oh wow, let's get Pablo Sandoval on the mound.
Yeah, I think Angels fans know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
So my apologies for butchering that, but he's another guy to keep an eye on as well. He did pitch a lot in the rotation last year. I don't know if he might be in the minor leagues to start off, but he is someone to keep an eye on as a potential rotation spot, especially considering the history the Angels have with injuries in their rotation. I think it would be safe to assume that this guy Sandoval could be on the team sooner rather than later.
I think what's a big plus for the Angels at this point is the fact that they have so many guys who are capable of being starting pitchers.
Right.
Even a couple of the guys I have in my bullpen, Jaime Barria and Junior Guerrera, they're both capable of being starters in this league. So I think it's very, very important that they've got, multiple guys who can, put on the big league uniform and toe the slab, as David Cohn likes to say, and really kind of provide some meaningful innings for them.
Right.
Looking at how some potential bullpens set up, I like Raisel Iglesias to be their closer. I think Mike Myers and Ty Buttery both figure to be meaningful late innings relief pitchers for them. Alex Claudio, don't sleep on him. It is possible that Alex Claudio may be a late innings guy for them as well. I have Felix Pena. I did go ahead and throw Jose Alberto Rivera in, the Rule 5 pick from Houston. His minor league numbers are relatively good. And being that he is a Rule 5 pick, if he's not on the major league roster for the Angels, they will have to send him back. I think if they like him enough to take a shot on him, I don't see them also, they like him enough to have them on their team.
Right.
So my idea is, why would you give him back to the Astros if he's a pitcher that you like? So I think that they will, unless he's just not that good on the mound for them in spring training, or, maybe to start the season, that he would end up going back. But as of opening day, I think Jose Alberto Rivera stands a good chance of making the roster. And then obviously, as I mentioned, Jaime Barria and Junior Guerrera, I also have making the team.
Yeah, so my bullpen looks very similar. I do like Raisel Iglesias as the opening day closer. There was a time not too long ago Iglesias was a starter for the Reds.
Yes.
I don't know how many people remember that, but when he first broke into the league, he was a starting pitcher, and now he's actually a pretty decent closer. He's on the short list of guys who have been able to make that transition pretty successfully, but I've got him as the closer right now. And I think as far as the back end of the bullpen goes, the Angels have a lot of options. Alex Claudio, Ty Buttery, Mike Myers. Those are 3 guys right there that could easily be back end bullpen pieces. Geraldo Reyes could even be a back end bullpen piece. Kind of constructing this bullpen for opening day was a little difficult because there are a lot of potential guys, and I think that it can be on the team. And I think the bullpen is going to be a pretty strong competition going into spring. There are a lot of spots open. I wouldn't say there's really outside of Iglesias and Myers and Claudio and maybe Buttery. You got 4 spots right there that could be grabbed by anybody. Junior Guerra, they got him from the Diamondbacks as a free agent. And you're right, Guerra does have capabilities of starting as well. I think he'll be a good kind of middle innings pitcher, maybe like multiple innings. I wouldn't say long relief quite, but I could see him maybe being like a 2 or 3 inning pitcher if they need him. And then Jaime Barria, he's another, which I think it says Harris on my screen or on my side. So apologies for that error.
Yeah, I think you're good.
It's okay though. We know what we're talking about. But Jaime Barria, he can also be a starter. And a few years ago when the Angels were in Denver, I went to one of the games that was being played, and Barria pitched. He pitched like 6 innings shutout shutout baseball. The Angels ended up shutting out the Rockies that day, but Berea was absolutely dominant in that start. So I think this is another guy to keep an eye on who could be a starter for them down the line too if they need it. But he would be a good long innings bullpen guy, maybe even a spot starter if they decide to go like with an opener one day. He would probably be their guy to do that. But the Angels have a pretty good. They have a good problem in their bullpen where they can really go any route. It's going to be a nice little competition to see who wins what spots. And they've got a lot of potential as far as like guys going to be going down to AAA. They got the potential there as well moving forward. So I think the Angels are in a little bit of a different spot now compared to where they've been. And also Felix Pena, I want to make a quick note on him. He can also be a starter for them. So they got Pena and Berea who can be spot starters for them potentially. But again, I think the Angels have a good problem here with their bullpen where they have there's going to be a good competition to see kind of who wins spots and where guys are going to be. Even who's going to win the closers role, because while we have Iglesias, they may not go with Iglesias. They may go with like Mike Myers or Alex Claudio even. So we'll see how that works out for them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that bullpen stacks up. I'm looking towards the future for the Angels. 3 prospects to watch for them. Mine, I had to go with the top guys. Some great insight from Jimmy. I like Joe Adell. I've liked him a lot. He had him as kind of he's seen some Chris Young comps. I know that if he ends up having a career trajectory kind of like Chris Young, that's worrisome at this point. But to have maybe a physical makeup like Chris Young isn't that bad. Chris Young had some nice speed, he had some nice pop, and he was a relatively good hitter. But yeah, Joe Adell, he's the number 1 organizational prospect, number 13 overall in the majors. He's played primarily right field. He has played a little bit of center and left in his minor league time as well. He's only 21 right now, and as you know, he played 38 games last season for the Angels. Wasn't that good of a time for him. He hit 161, hitting 5 home runs, driving in 7, and he struck out 55 times. He looked scared. He looked unprepared, so to speak. Which isn't uncommon for, at the time, a 20-year-old with only 200 or so professional games under his belt. He played about as well as expected. Anytime you see a young player come up and perform really, really well, that's usually not the norm. I know it's happened, probably more and more often recently where, guys get called up and then they're just superstars. But that's been a very recent change. Usually players come up and at first they're a little slow to learn, a little slow to catch on, and then they catch on, and then they catch fire. I think that's what Joe Adell is going to be primed to do. Looking at his 224 career minor league games, he is a 298 hitter. So he's proven, through each level of the minor leagues that he is a valuable hitter. He can hit 300 in the minor leagues. That usually transfers to the major league level. He's hit 35 home runs, driven in 143 RBIs, and stolen 30 bases as well. So he's got a good rounded out list of statistics for his minor league career. And I think really all he has to prove at this point is that he can, play in the big leagues. I was thinking probably a late June to late July potential call up for him. That's if they want him this season. If they're out of the running, maybe they do trade Dexter Fowler and give Joe Adell the right field spot, for the last 2 months of the year, see what he can do. But as of right now, I think it's more likely you'll probably see him in AAA again this season. And then you'll see him probably making a real case to be the opening day right fielder starting next year. My number 2 prospect is the number 2 prospect for the Angels, number 38 overall in the majors. That is Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh has played primarily center field and right field in his minor league career. He's 23 years old, the highest level he's reached is Double-A, and this is a very impressive man in terms of his size. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. Anytime you can get that out of an outfielder, it's always a plus. As you can see with guys like Aaron Judge, where literally the wall is like right here to them, so they can just reach up and grab balls like that. Brandon Marsh in his 267 minor league games to this point is a 283 hitter, so another good high average for the minor leagues. He's hit 21 home runs, driven in 159, and stolen 43 bases. It's very possible that he, in the major league level, could play all three outfield spots. That could play really important, being that center field's usually locked down by Trout, and there seems to be multiple guys who are vying for a potential right field spot. Maybe he could take over left field once Justin Upton's contract runs out. He could very well be a 2020 player, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. And I think that he's got enough power that he could grow into a 30-20 type of player, where he's hitting over 30 home runs, driving in 20, hitting around 300. It definitely going to be a prospect to watch moving forward. As of right now, I don't think he has much of a chance at making the opening day roster. I don't think he has much of a chance seeing the major league field this season, unless the Angels are more or less just ravaged with injuries in the outfield. I think it's much more likely that you see him sometime in 2022, maybe even as late as 2023, if they so choose. And my final prospect to look at is the number 7 prospect for the Angels. That's Jeremiah Jackson. Now, Jeremiah Jackson doesn't have much experience. He's a 20-year-old shortstop. He's played a little bit of second base. To this point, he's put 2 seasons in rookie ball, but both of those seasons were really, really impressive. He was a second-round pick back in 2018. He's played 108 games. He's at 261. He's hit 30 home runs, drove in 83 runs, and stolen 15 bases across 108 games in rookie ball. He actually set the Pioneer League single-season home run record with 23 that he hit in 2019. He actually hit 23 home runs in 65 games. So that was it's like one home run. It's like a home run every 3 games.
Yeah.
Almost one home run every 2 games. He's got a bit of a strikeout issue. He has struck out 155 times across 108 games. And he's, from what I've heard, he has the lateral quickness to potentially be a long-term shortstop. However, he has committed 27 errors across his 108 games. 27 errors at shortstop, 9 errors at second base. I know errors are a dying number. A dying statistic. No one really looks at them too much, but I also don't know advanced defensive metrics. So I look at errors. I see a lot of them. That's an obvious warning sign for me.
Yeah.
But it is possible that he may be, people are looking at him as potentially 2022 opening day shortstop candidate, even though he's only 20. And he's only got 108 games of rookie ball under his belt. It is possible that he sees anywhere between high A ball and Double-A this season, assuming that he continues to hit home runs and assuming that he continues to develop his bat and his glove. People are thinking that he could be an opening day shortstop as early as 2022. I personally think it might be closer to 23. Give him an extra year to, really master those higher minor league levels, and we'll see where he's at.
Yeah, I think one thing with Brandon Marsh, he might even be a September call-up too.
Yes.
I know the rosters don't expand to 4 or aren't maxed out at 40 players anymore for September, but I think this, he seems like someone that could be a September call-up down the line if they feel that need. So I have 3 on here, but really quick, I wanted to make a note on the number 2 prospect, Reed Detmers. And the only reason I didn't put him on here is because he doesn't have any professional games under his belt. But Jimmy sent me a summary of what his draft report says, and he was the 10th overall pick last year in 2020. He's a left-handed pitcher, 21 years old. He's in rookie ball right now, but apparently in the 2020 draft, he was rated as the best polished pitcher.
Wow.
in the whole draft. And there's a lot of speculation that he could be on the team this year. So it's really going to depend on how he does come when the minor league seasons begin, how he actually holds up. But it's kind of, at least from what Jimmy was saying, this kind of sounds like a Garrett Crockett situation where he could actually jump through the minors, make only play like rookie high A ball, and then make the major league team. Granted, I mean, like, the optimism is great, but I would probably imagine, considering there wasn't a season last year, I don't know how likely it's going to be that Detmers makes the team this year. But if the ceiling is really high on him like that, that's someone to definitely keep an eye on if you're an Angels fan. But the three guys I wanted to really take a look at is because they actually, I have numbers I can look at with them. They are all pitchers. The first guy I want to take a look at is Chris Rodriguez. He is their number 6 prospect. He's 22 years old. His highest level reached is high A. In the minor leagues, he's more of an up and coming prospect right now. 5-3 record in 22 games started, 24 games overall, 4.75 ERA, 77 2/3 innings pitched. He does have 86 strikeouts in those 77 innings, 21 walks, only allowed 2 home runs. So he does keep the ball in the park. He does have a 262 batting average against him, 1.29 whip. I think he had Tommy John surgery though. So he kind of lost out on 2 years because in 2019 he had a 0 ERA in 3 games started, 9 1/3 innings pitched, 1.07 whip. So this is a guy that even though he had an injury that basically took out 3 years. Oh, I don't count last year because there was no minor league season, but he pretty much missed out 2018 and most of 2019 because of Tommy John. But this is a guy that has a really high ceiling on him as well. And the 86 strikeouts in the 77 innings is a good plus, especially because he's only allowed 21 walks. So he has good command. He has some pretty good pitches on his arsenal as well. So this is the first prospect. The second prospect is a lefty, Hector Yan. And Jimmy was telling me this guy has Francisco Rodriguez comps. He looks very similar to a very young 20-year-old Francisco Rodriguez who was on that 2020 or 2002 World Series team for the Angels. His highest level is A ball as well. He's 21 years old. He's got a 6-10 record in the minor leagues, 42 games started, 53 games overall, 3.3 ERA, 185 1/3 innings pitched. And this is what really stuck out with me. 231 strikeouts. He does have 98 walks, so the walks are a little bit of an issue. But he's only allowed 8 homers, 207 batting average against, and a 1.26 whip. This is a guy that has potential to probably be on the team. I don't know if he's going to get a spring training invite, but if he does, he has a really good shot at making the team, at least as a bullpen piece, maybe even as a starter. Depending on how things play out. I think this guy could reach the major league club this year. He could be on the team at some point. But I think Angels fans have a lot to be excited for here in this guy, especially if he's getting Francisco Rodriguez comps. This is a guy to definitely keep an eye on for. And then the last guy I wanted to take a look at, he doesn't have the highest ceiling. I know a lot of Angels fans aren't very high on this guy, but I looked at his track record in the minors, and I think this guy could be a sneaky call-up who could find some success with the big league club, and that's Packy Naughton. By the way, that is a solid name. Packy Naughton. He is a left-handed pitcher, 24 years old. Highest level reached is AA. He's listed to be on the AAA team this year. In the minors, though, 19-25 record, a 3.59 ERA across 68 starts and 70 games overall, 371 innings pitched, 331 strikeouts, 89 walks, 27 homers, a 267 batting average against, and a 1.27 whip. This guy kind of reminds me of Lance Lynn. I know that he doesn't have like the brightest numbers, but he has very, very respectable numbers. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He will walk guys, but he can keep the ball. He can keep the ball in play. He pitches to contact, and he can he doesn't give up a ton of runs considering he has a 3.59 ERA. I know that's kind of high, I guess, for minor leagues. It's not the most appealing, but if he can translate that to the major leagues, he might be able to record anywhere from like a 3.5 to a 4 ERA. He could even be like a back end starting piece for the Angels. I know he doesn't have the highest ceiling though, but I thought kind of looking at his minor league numbers, to me, they're respectable enough that he should get a look at some point this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he made the team. I guess the only question is, will those minor league numbers translate over to the major leagues if he does make it?
Yeah, I believe his first name is actually Patrick. I'm not sure why he goes by Packy. Maybe it's a nickname that stuck that he likes.
Probably.
Definitely. When I saw your message this morning and it said Packy not, and I'm like, there's no way. Like his name is actually Pack.
It's like a 1920.
Great. He had a yeah, it is. It is really like a 1920s shortstop for like the St. Louis Browns or something like that. So looking at how we project the 2021 season to go for the Angels, I think they could be anywhere from a 96 win team to an 80 win team. That's usually how they project to go, seemingly every season. They're either going to be really, really good, or injuries and poor pitching is going to hit them again. They're going to be, below average. Some of my three key factors that I had for the Angels this season, they need to get quality performances from both Justin Upton and Shohei Ohtani. When it comes to Ohtani, whether it be from the bat or from the pitching mound, they need to get something out of him this season. Their pitching, speaking of their pitching, someone needs to step up, whether it be someone in the bullpen that kind of becomes their Archie Bradley, where if you have an inning, you absolutely need these 3 outs, in order to set up your closer. You go to this guy, whether it be someone like Alex Claudio, Ty Buttery, or Mike Myers. They need someone like that, and especially in their rotation, whether it be Bundy continuing to improve, or whether it be Alex Cobb, maybe coming back down to earth in terms of his numbers. Maybe he's not quite as ugly as they were prior. And then the Athletics and the Astros, one of those teams are going to need to take a step back in order for the Angels to actually leapfrog them and have a real shot at the division.
Yeah, so my ceiling is about 93 wins, 93 and 69 record. The floor is 78 and 84. To me, on paper, this team is a division winner. It's just my personal opinion, but paper talent is not the same as field talent. And for me, the talent that they have on paper needs to translate to the field. So that means they need to get, like you said, they need to get production from Upton. They need to get production from Ohtani. They need their young guys to step up when they make it up to the team. Guys like Joe Adell, if he makes it, Jared Walsh, they're going to need him to contribute. So they need guys outside of Mike Trout to really contribute in the lineup. And also the pitching, on the pitching staff, they need guys to just live up to their potential in a sense, if they're going to be a 93 to 94 win team. The reason I could see them being as low as 78 wins is because of the pitching woes they've had over the years. They've had so many injuries in the staff and in the bullpen. It's usually been a common theme for why they haven't really been able to find that success. So I think if the pitching can stay intact and stay healthy and perform, they don't have to be on their absolute best because they have a good enough offense that can at least support them and kind of back them up. But if the pitching starts dealing with injuries, that's when it's gonna hit the fan real quick. And then I think too, it seems like there's a lot of young talent that's up and coming that we will probably see on this team throughout the year. And whenever you have young talent, there can be some inconsistencies that come just with development. So I think this team, even though they have as high of a ceiling as they do, the young talent coming up may not fully do what the team wants or is hoping that they'll get out of them this year. So I could easily kind of see them being all around anywhere between the 78 93 win area just because of those three factors.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Angels perform this season. Definitely very bright. You get to see Mike Trout every single day. That's always a very big plus. And Joe Madden's comments about committing cardinal sin, not getting Trout to another World Series. I hope that he can avoid committing that sin. And I hope that he can get Trout to a World Series. I think if anyone's going to be able to do it as far as a manager goes, it's going to be someone like Joe Madden.
Right.
All right, that's the end of another episode for us here. As always, you can find us on our social media platforms, whether it be Instagram at Real Dugout Talk, TikTok now at Dugout Talk, Twitter. You can find us on Dugout Talk 1. You can always find us here on YouTube at Dugout Talk, and you can find us on Facebook at Real Dugout Talk. And once again, a huge shout out to our friend and fan, Jimmy Harvey, for his great Angels insight. He sent us multiple lists of information that I certainly dove into and took some inspiration from.
Yeah, it was hard to pick what exactly, at least for me, what I was going to actually talk about. There was so much. I was like, oh my God, there's a lot here. Yeah. But yes, we're very grateful for Jimmy taking the time to do that for us and just to give us information we didn't know. Because if he hadn't told me about Reed Detmers, I would have just passed over him.
Yeah.
So very grateful for that. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the Seattle Mariners. It's going to be a little interesting tomorrow because, as you may have heard, there's been some drama in the front office that we're going to talk about as part of covering the team. But if you know any Mariners fans out there, and also if you know any Angels fans with this episode, please be sure to share this episode with them, as well as our social medias. But yeah, we're very grateful for you guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Dugout Talk. And until then, we will see you tomorrow.
See you guys.